Welcome to Our College, Your Voices. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. As we have embraced the challenges and opportunities of COVID-19, one of the biggest changes for the college has been moving our student life and activities to an online environment. This isn't work that started when we closed our buildings, though. It had started a little while before, and I am excited to have three of our campus student life folks with us, along with a longtime friend of the podcast, Kat Stremecki, back with us to talk a little bit about some of those plans that they were doing before COVID-19 that got them ready for this work, and then what they've done since we've been off campus for a while and how they're adapting to this new world. So we're going to meet our panel, and I'm going to first start with Danny McQuaid. Hi, Danny.
Hi, my name is Danny McQuaid. I am the Director of Student Life from our Kokomo service area.
Welcome. It's great to have you here. And Wynobe Williams. Hi, Wynobe.
Hello there. I'm Wynobe Williams. I'm from Sellersburg, Indiana, and glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Steve Bush. Hi, Steve.
Hey, how are you? I'm Steve Bush. I'm the Student Life and Leadership Development Director out of Lafayette, Indiana.
Welcome. And last but not least, Kat Stremecki. Hey, Kat.
Hey, so I'm Kat Stremecki, and I get the pleasure of working with the Student Life team across the state.
Welcome. So I'm going to start with a question that sort of builds off of my preview, which is, how did you go about making the switch to online student life?
Well, to start with, it was kind of fast and furious for myself, but to be honest, we were already doing a few different things that we had piloted in the fall online, and it was really just a matter of starting to build those programs from there. We started off kind of really just standing on the shoulders of giants on my campus and kind of seeing what everybody else was doing. We had worked with some really good vendors as far as what they had to offer, what types of platforms they were able to stream from, whether that was live, pre-recorded, or released. So that's kind of how we got started from there, just building off of what we have already started to do on campus, and then reaching out to our vendors to see how they could complement the services we already have.
Just as a different perspective on it, me and my counterpart that works in my area was Megan Hicks. We'd already started about a year and a half ago various social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and we started a YouTube channel. Is how we really reach our students. And it's been an amazing ride. We've gotten a lot of followers on all of those platforms, and it's really working well for our campus.
Yeah, and I really just started by looking at what I had already planned to be doing for this 8 weeks, like I was planning to do in person, and seeing how I thought that those would translate to virtual. And it turned out that several of my programs, I was actually able to just kind of transition those to virtual with a few little tweaks, and they've really gone pretty well.
I think it's also important for folks to know that we started making that transition a little sooner than classes did. A lot of our events were going to fall under the maximum requirements for how many people you could have in a space. So we had already started to think about how this might look differently for us. And then so when we made the decision to close buildings, we were already well on our way to creating what you're seeing these last 6 to 8 weeks with online student life.
So you're 8 to 10 weeks in at this point then. What's going well?
So right now, one of the things that I've noticed as far as trends just overall with programs that we have is a lot of what we already do here at the college as far as kind of meeting students where they're at. And what I mean by that in this sense is all of our different types of online programs, the majority of them are probably going to have some type of live component to where things get launched. Things are put out there at a specific time on a specific date. But where we have been having a lot of really good success is having replay available to students, having different types of things to where they could participate in initiatives such as we're currently running a financial literacy series on our campus. And students, although new modules are launched every week live, they go every Sunday, they have a 5-week period in which they could actually complete the entire program. So they could really work at at their own pace. So kind of like how we look at academic courses online and how students really like the flexibility and autonomy that they get to work within their academics in that way. We've been finding a lot of success in offering our co-curricular programs that way too, opening them up at a specific time and then letting students work at their own pace.
I've really had a lot of success working with some of my faculty on some co-curricular programming as well. We've done quite a bit with carrying over some of those things that we've traditionally done, like a sexual assault awareness event called What Were You Wearing, that we've always done on campus before, that our faculty have really incorporated into several classes. We were able to move that virtual this spring, and it's been a really nice thing, not only for students to be able to access wherever they're at, but also for faculty to be able to incorporate in their classes in that way.
Hey, Danny, can you explain to folks what Were You Wearing is?
Sure. So What Were You Wearing is actually a display that was put together by a group in Kansas. And so what it is they talk to sexual assault survivors, and they ask them what has been the biggest challenge they've had. And a lot of what those challenges have been is people continuously asking them, what were you wearing? And kind of putting that onus of blame back on the survivors rather than on our perpetrators. And so they asked if they could use those stories and recreate those clothing to be able to show those as displays. And we've done that on campus for several years. And I was able to bring those stories, take pictures, and make that a virtual display that people can access right through Ivy Life.
I will say I've seen both displays, both the in-person and virtual display, and it is just as moving virtually as what it is in person. It's pretty incredible. You have that out on your Ivy Life page, right? Is there a way folks can get to that?
I do have it on Ivy Life. I can share a link that
I can put it in the show notes. I would love to do that. That would be fabulous.
Perfect.
And I have to say, I've enjoyed being able to see the events on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the places that you guys are, and thinking, I could actually go to that if I wanted to. And I haven't had time to do it yet, but that is kind of the nice thing about virtual, is it does let me have that experience if I want to. So don't be surprised if I show up at some point. So how are your students engaging with you? You've highlighted that a little bit, but let's talk about it a little bit more, because it only matters if the students show up for it. So how are they engaging with you?
Our students, at least my students, will email me. They've called me on my personal cell phone, which is fine with me. That's great. They reach out to you on Facebook. They reach out to you on Twitter. They comment. They take pictures of themselves and with our various contests that we've been having. This coming week, we have, what today is May the 4th be with you. We're having a Star Wars contest, which is kind of neat. And just tying back to that, we're going to have tomorrow, we will have a trivia contest at lunchtime where faculty and staff and students can kind of merge together and come in for just a moment to do something fun, especially with it being 7 weeks into being virtual. So it'll give them a break from some of the monotony of being at the computer, and it'll be a fun way to just interact and do something lighthearted. So the students are using our platforms, and during 2 weeks ago, we had a health-related contest, which a lot of our health, we have a large following in our Allied Health, who basically we had about 300 interactions over our social media, which was good just for a 4-day period. So we really have embraced this part of it. I don't want to stay doing this the rest of our time in the future, but I like that we can reach a broader audience, and we can meet and greet them where they are, because they are right there virtually. And those students who work a lot, this gives them another opportunity to just jump in and see something that's been pre-recorded, like Steve said. We have a partnership with the World Affairs Council. We've had a couple of events with them. So they can go back and look at it at their own pace and pause it or what have you and come back to it. So this has been a great opportunity. So we've embraced being able to do something different, and we'll build on this and continue to do this.
Kind of like Winobi, we've been touching base with students a lot of different ways. But one of the things that's been really unique for me is that I've seen a lot of students connecting with me that I've never talked to before, that I've never connected to when we were doing on-campus events. So that's been really an enjoyable piece for me. And some of those students are logging on to, we have a weekly coffee and conversation where students can just kind of connect with myself as well as some other faculty and staff that jump on each week. Via Zoom, we have things like, we've done an ongoing streaming showdown for the last 7 weeks. And I've had students participate in that multiple times. Like, they're voting every single week on different things with the showdown. And there's students I've never interacted with before. So that's been really kind of fun and unique.
Is that streaming or screaming, Danny?
Streaming showdown. So I had a bunch of students, I asked them if they would tell me what they like to binge watch, what they're binge watching right now. And so we've put those into a bracket, and each week they vote on to what show gets to move on.
Got it. All right. So can you tell us what's in the lead right now?
Yeah, actually we just finished up last week, and what won was House. So apparently we are
really
in medical dramas because it was House versus Grey's Anatomy for the final.
That is not what I would have expected. So that is really cool.
It just cracks me up because it tells me what people are thinking about.
Right.
A lot of what we do on campus that I kind of miss is we are so used to having those drop-in appointments. So much of what I feel like I do on campus is, I could be sitting in my office at, 3:15 like I am today, sitting here, and all of a sudden I have a student just pop in for whatever reason, and I have a one-on-one conversation with them. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's, it's an hour. It's whatever they need to talk about. And it's on a variety of subjects. One of the things that I've been doing lately with the people in the Lafayette service area to kind of, keep that sense of walk-in appointments per se, although it's not quite that since we are in the virtual realm. We've been doing one-on-one strengths coaching via Zoom. If you're not familiar with Clifton Strengths, essentially, to give you the short form of it, it's a very personalized characteristic and personality assessment that students are able to take. I provide them with an access code about a week out. I give them a week to take it. Once I go ahead and see that they've completed the assessment, I take a look at their results. And then in order to kind of foster that one-on-one walk-in appointment per se, or just drop-in, I meet with a student for about an hour, and we talk about their strengths. And it's not one of those situations. I'm not a trained psychologist. I'm not asking them about their mother or telling them to lay down on their couch and Zoom with me while I analyze their psyche. But we talk about their strengths. I talk about how they're applying those in the classroom. Sometimes they might talk about how they don't see how their strengths or these personal characteristics that they're learning about and reflecting on, they don't understand how they manifest in their life, but I might be able to help them understand that by different anecdotes or experiences that they provide me. And kind of like what Danny said, some of these students that are engaging, I haven't had the opportunity to meet face-to-face for whatever reason on campus yet. And this has really provided me another opportunity, a new avenue to meet students, even though we're not even on campus right now.
That is really cool, Steve. What are your top 5 strengths? Do you mind sharing?
Oh, that's top. No, it's not top secret. My number 1 is focus. So I'm very goal oriented. Number 2 is deliberative. 3 is consistency. 4 is harmony, and 5 is responsibility.
Excellent.
So
very good.
I would have never guessed any of those for you. It's also funny for those of you listening at home, we are all on Zoom and we can see each other. It was funny to watch the other 2 student life directors' faces as Steve was listing off his strengths.
I was just thinking that must be why we work so well together, because I have none of those and you keep me on track, Steve.
Danny, don't I remember you have woo in your top 5?
I do not. I've seen my full 34 and woo is in the mid-20s for me.
Okay. All right. Okay. Kat, are you woo?
Oh, no.
I didn't think
no.
so.
I too have seen my 34, and
Yeah.
communication, which is what my bachelor's degree is in, is my 34th.
Okay.
And then woo is 33. I know it's my favorite that communication is my
That's
34. Awesome. Woo is 33 and empathy is 32.
Okay.
So I have no feelings.
Okay. I have no woo either. My woo is very low. Okay. All right. Sorry. Back to the regularly scheduled podcast, but we need to do another one on strengths at some point because that could be a good conversation.
We could do an entire one on strengths.
We could. That would be fun. So you've been doing this for a little while. We're not going to be able to go back to our buildings just yet. And maybe for a little while longer, we've got to stay in this environment. So what are you looking forward to trying in the future in this online student life and student engagement realm?
So I have a kind of silly, just for fun one, but last Friday on our coffee and conversation, we had a pretty good group of students on there and they started showing their pets. So they have asked if this summer we can do a Zoom pet show and tell. So I think we are going to do a pet show and tell on Zoom this summer.
You have got to send me the email when that happens, Danny. I'm there. I am there.
I think they were just amazed because I have 4 dogs. And so every time I'd be like, here's a dog. And then we would go back and I'd be like, here's another dog. And then finally they go, how many dogs do you have in your room with you?
We've been very fortunate at Sellersburg, actually, with our employee engagement committee, and student life is a very active role in that. We've done a little bit of derby. We did the pets. They did a show and tell with a farm when they had the geese and they had a mule, a small donkey. It's been very interesting. One of the things I think that this is going to allow us to do when we do get back for future, we've been meeting every Friday with our Student Government Association, and that has been very informative. They've come in and we've really gotten to know each other. One of the things that I've really liked about this, you get to know people on a different level. I look at, everybody in their houses right now. It kind of gives you a personal perspective on when we go to these meetings. Usually Steve is in his bedroom with his baby probably, but it really gives you a different perspective, and especially with my SGA, it gave us an opportunity to even connect on a deeper level. And with the employee engagement committee, I think at one time we had 50 people on there, and everybody was very talkative, and it helps to bring that connection, even though we're so distant apart. This has kind of healed us in a way and put us even more so as an Ivy Tech family, so to speak. So I think that what I would like to see happen is give those students in the student organizations the opportunity to be at meetings when they can't be there, because we could do a Zoom and reach them on a broader spectrum as far as whereas you go to a meeting, there's 2 or 3 students. We've always done a call in, but I think this is the new thing. So we won't have to worry about them being accessible, so to speak. They could just come and join just like we're doing today.
Absolutely.
I know Nathan at our Richmond campus has done a virtual student leadership academy for the spring semester. And he has told us that it's been a really great success for them, so much so that they'll do SLA in the fall as face-to-face like we normally would. And they are planning in Richmond to continue to offer a face-to-face version in the spring semester.
That's awesome. Good.
We've been in Kokomo, I have partnered with Career Development, and we've been doing a strengths-based, like a 3-week strengths-based leadership program too. And that has gone really, really well. And we're really excited to be able to continue that. So that is something that I think that we will build on and continue to do as a virtual option for our students as well.
One of the things that I guess it wasn't necessarily not thought of previously, but there just wasn't a great need for it, I guess, was actually streaming events that are going on campus, and more specifically looking at actually streaming speakers that we bring in, lectures, different forms of entertainment that we might bring to campus as well. the thought behind that before kind of was like, if we have it live here on campus, we still get people from the service area that visit the main campus every day. What is exactly the need that we have to, stream something like a speaker online? And like I said earlier, what I've actually found is that a lot of people are tuning into speakers, whether it's live or at another time. So even if we streamed a lecture or presentation topic and there weren't a ton of people that tuned in live, I could definitely see a lot of value in streaming those things at a later date as a recorded version as well. So that's definitely something I think we can explore through the Student Life office.
Absolutely. And I have to think that a lot of the vendors that you all work with, I know I've read some of those contracts and some of them really limit that. And I think after this, they have to think about that much differently too, so that they can sustain their businesses even in this kind of unusual situation.
I've actually talked with a lot of the agencies and performers that we work with, and I think they're at a point right now where they just want to work, and they are okay with doing things a little differently now. I think we're going to have to pay pretty close attention to our contracts that we have with our performers and things like that for at least the next year or so. What we've talked about as a team is we all got a pass in higher ed this last semester with performer contracts, and I don't know that we'll get that same pass in the future, just because it won't be as much of a surprise as what it was in March. And so I think that's definitely something that we're going to have to make sure we're paying attention to when we're looking at these performer contracts, are what if we do have a last minute where we have to switch to virtual, and making sure that we're covered with that. But yeah, like I said, a lot of our agents that we normally work with just want to work right now. So they may be a little more flexible than they've been.
I think a lot of people probably don't realize that Student Life folks have to be experts in contract management and negotiation. It's one of the skills you learn when you work in Student Life. And so anybody considering a career in student affairs and you want to do Student Life, you're going to have to be able to do contract negotiation. We've talked about this a little bit, but I want to ask about this, as institutions are starting to make predictions about what does fall look like, what does spring look like. We know that we're most likely facing another wave of this virus coming back even after we go through the back on track plan that the governor has laid out for us and we can reopen to some degree. What do you think online student engagement and just student engagement in general looks like as we start the fall and spring semester? And what are you going to do differently? And what are you just looking forward to as we get back to, as we discover and create a new normal, I guess?
I think to start to piggyback a little bit off of what Kat was talking about as far as the vendors go, one of the main things that I was really impressed with when this all came about was also our agents' ability to go ahead and to pivot and to innovate as well. Because just like I was, they were also kind of looking for new ways of doing anything and wanting to work, like Kat said, as soon as they could. So they were coming up with a lot of creative solutions. I could see these different types of solutions that they came up with as far as different types of streaming capabilities that we've kind of talked about, but even the different ways that they interact and engage with students. Face-to-face is great, and that personal interaction that you get from a live experience is awesome, and it can't be duplicated. But at the same time, some of the value that I've seen in this virtual and online engagement is the anonymity that it allows sometimes for students to interact with speakers on different topics. And when I say that, they generally, in some cases, are going to feel a little bit more comfortable asking certain questions when interacting with the speaker, because maybe it isn't face-to-face, maybe it isn't live, maybe it's on a sensitive topic that the lecturer, the speaker, the entertainer is presenting about. So a student might not be as open to ask those questions. So it really builds that type of safe space and safe environment for students to engage. And that's something that I think we could definitely use in the future, not just now, not just when we're all virtual or when we're all on campus. It's any time that we're going to be able to use those types of capabilities.
And I think it really opens up some opportunities for us to maybe bring in some different types of speakers virtually that, we really didn't take a chance on before, because by the time you tried to work into their schedule and when they could get to campus or when it was going to be in their loop to get here, is that it just wasn't cost or time effective. And so this virtual setting really opens up bringing in some of those different people where they can pop in for an hour and interact with us on a Monday at 9 a.m. because that's when it works best for our students. But it maybe wouldn't have been able for us to be able to bring them in when they had to travel here. So I think that it's going to really open up a wide variety of possibilities that we maybe, at least I didn't consider before this.
I think what's interesting to me too, as I think about the future for us, is I think about the fact that the SGA Legacy Project for 1920 is about how do we improve the online student experience? And the students selected this in December. And they were already talking about how can we create an online student life experience, in addition to a lot of other things that they were talking about. And so it's interesting to me that pre-COVID, our students were actually already planning to ask us to do this type of work. So I think for us, I think some form of virtual is here to stay, because we have seen success with it that we actually didn't think we'd have. We've joked a couple of times too that, like, if we were ever going to try doing online programming, now is the best time we could have ever had, because there's nothing else for the students to do. So they might as well at least give it a shot. And so, but it's actually worked out for us. And, as we've said, we've engaged with students that we don't normally engage with when we are face to face. I also think for us, again, where we're going to have to really think creatively is not just if we have to suddenly switch back to virtual classes again. For us, I think it's going to be the number of people in a space that is going to impact us probably the most, especially when we come back in the fall. Because I think about what do we do immediately when we come back in the fall, and that's weeks of welcome. And, where we have our big kickoff events for the semester. And so we're going to have to think about what does welcome look like for us, socially distancing and limiting a number of people in a space. So I think we're just glad as a student life team that we have the entire summer to plan for that. And so we can be prepared. We were able to do it in 10 days, but I'd sure like the opportunity to have 3 or 4 months to figure it out.
Very good. I also think I remember you saying, Kat, I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second. We are doing a big change of Ivy Life over the summer. And so all the links are going to change. Do I remember you saying that somewhere?
Oh, we are. And, just because it's our way, when it's complicated, let's just throw something else in there too. But you know what? That was already planned before any of this happened. So yes, we are doing a little bit of a change for Ivy Life over the summer. So OrgSync is retiring their platform. So we will migrate to their newest platform. It's called Engage. So all of our links that are out there that might say orgsync.com will now say ivylife.ivytech.edu, which we're super excited about, that they actually have the name of our school and the name of our site in the link. So you'll start to see some changes with Ivy Life. Really about June 3rd, because we will retire the OrgSync platform on June 2nd. And so we are already, as a student life team, doing some building of that site behind the scenes. So that way, when we move everybody's information over on June 2nd, when students log in on June 3rd, it'll be like they never knew that OrgSync was a thing. So we really like the new platform. It's going to provide us a lot of different opportunities to track students' involvement and provide a document for students that really shows their picture of what they did here at the college. And so, yeah, we're ready. We've been ready to migrate over for a little while now. So we're just ready to make that happen.
That's awesome. Thanks for taking that question off the top of my head. But I know that's going to be coming up here shortly. So, anything else we want to get in today's episode? Anything else you guys want to make sure the world hears while you're here?
I think it's just important for us to remind everybody that student life is very much still happening at the college. It's happening in a different way, but our folks across the state have worked just as hard as everybody else to make this switch to the virtual world. We've had some struggles along the way. We've had some really cool successes. It's been fun for us to come together as a team. We're meeting weekly right now and talking through some of the issues about, hey, how do we do this? How do we do that? I mean, we saw our first virtual PTK regional conference where we did the awards banquet and had a blast with that. So, we're thinking about, it was super fun. And a great job to Dr. Sam Arnold, who put that on with her Phi Theta Kappa team. But, so we're still very much making sure that students are engaged with the college, because we know that right now it is more important than ever for people to feel like they have a connection to Ivy Tech, a connection to each other. And that's how we're going to get through this.
Absolutely. Well, that is a perfect place to wrap this up and launch our call to action, which is, if you have not yet connected with your student life folks on campus, then it's time for you to do that. Reach out to them, find out how to follow them on social media, or to get a calendar of their events. Student life events are a great thing to think about adding into your course as opportunities for students. And they're also a great thing for you to partner with our student life team on co-curricular activities like Danny mentioned as well, because our student life team is a fantastic partner for you in the classroom for our faculty as well. So make sure that you do that. And also, I will share in the show notes the link to the Ivy Life What Are You Wearing exhibit that Danny talked about earlier. And I'm just really excited we got to have this chat, and I can't wait till we can do it again in person. But until then, this works, just like you guys are finding out student life activities work. So thank you all for joining this episode of Our College Your Voices. I want to thank the members of today's panel, Danny McQuaid, Wynobe Williams, Steve Bush, and Kat Stromecki. Thanks again to all of you. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. You can connect with me on Twitter at KNM Tweets. Don't forget, you can reach us by email at ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. This is, by the way, a great time if you've not been on the podcast and you have an idea for an episode to reach out, because it's really easy for us to schedule these right now. We don't have to wait for a recording date or anything like that. So if you've got an idea for an episode, that is the best way to reach out. Again, that's ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. You can also leave us a voicemail, 317-572-5049. If you're an Ivy Tech employee, don't forget you can join our Microsoft Teams listener community. Just go to Microsoft Teams, click on the Teams button, go down to join. It's either at the top or the bottom, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC, and you'll be able to join our podcast community. Our website is ivytech.edu/podcast. Production assistance for this and every episode provided by Becky Campbell, Sarah Ferguson, and the Ivy Tech Community College marketing team. Our podcast concept is by Matthew Pittman. Theme music and post-production services are provided by the incredible Jen Edds at the Brassy Broadcasting Company, who I miss so badly. We will see you next time on Our College, Your Voices.